In a valley of the Bavarian Alps, January 1943, Eva Braun has herself filmed for the pleasure of her secret love, Adolf Hitler. Is Twilight of the Gods, by his favorite composer Wagner, which he often listens to in his mountain home, perhaps an omen? To her, he is the Führer, the leader who has conquered Europe and part of Russia, despite setbacks in Moscow and Stalingrad, where the situation is dire. Will his need to dominate, still as strong as ever, lead to his own downfall? After these first defeats, Hitler prepares for the Great Shock. January 43, an icy winter. At the Wolf's Lair, the Führer's headquarters close to the Russian front, Hitler prepares with Marshal Keitel, head of the Army's High Command, and Ribbentrop, Minister of Foreign Affairs, for the arrival of his ally, Romania's dictator, Marshal Antonescu. Hitler blames him for the Romanian army's debacle at Stalingrad, which, according to him, has led to the inevitable fate of Germany's Sixth Army. In Hitler's entourage, one of his liaison officers, Nicholas von Bellow, notes in his memoirs, "The longer the fighting in Russia went on, the more unrestrained became his hatred of the Jews." Hitler constantly insists, "Exterminating the Jews is my mission on Earth." Behind these doors, one of the secretaries, Christa Schroeder, notes, when, during conferences, the conversation turned to rumors about the mass murders and torture, in front of witnesses, Hitler would never have admitted the inhumane harshness of the orders he had given. But what does this secretary really know about the roundups, ghettos, deportations, massacres, about all these extermination operations constantly carried out in Russia and occupied Europe? And how much does Eva Braun really know? She says, "I met people who told me stories. I couldn't believe my ears. But in the end, isn't it better that I don't know what's going on? After all, I can't change anything." Berlin, March 21st, 1943. Hitler inaugurates an exhibition of weapons seized from the Soviets to cover up the fall of Stalingrad. He is greeted by Reichsmarschall Göring, Commander-in-Chief of the Luftwaffe, who helped him seize power exactly 10 years earlier. The atmosphere has changed. An attack is being prepared against him. It is unsuccessful, but others will follow. He miraculously escapes them all. Throughout Nazi-occupied Europe, 1943 marks the true rise of the resistance to Nazism, even in Germany. Hans Scholl, a medical student drafted as a medic, speaks of the horrors committed by the Wehrmacht on the Eastern Front. Together with his sister, Sophie Scholl, and another medical student, Alexander Schmorl, they launch the White Rose movement. They denounce what they call the dictatorship of evil and hand out anti-Nazi leaflets. Here is one. It ends as follows. Our people stand against the annihilation of Europe by National Socialism in a renewed affirmation of freedom. They are turned in, arrested, and sentenced to death. Sophie Scholl declares, "What we wrote and said is also believed by many others. They just don't dare express themselves." She is guillotined at the age of 21. Hitler now faces a wall. At the Casablanca Conference, the Allies have just confirmed their intention to continue the fight until Germany surrenders unconditionally. So Hitler declares, "As I have always said, the situation is clear. It will be victory or destruction." His accomplice, Goebbels, Minister of Propaganda, has prepared the field. Do you want total war? German people, rise up. Storm, unleash yourself. The apotheosis is April 19th, 1943, the day before the Führer's birthday, with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy, under the direction of a pro-Nazi conductor, Herbert von Karajan. His secretary, Christa Schroeder, writes, "Hitler appeared less and less in public as his armies suffered setbacks. Like a reptile that fears the sun, Hitler fled the light. By the end of the war, more than 4 million Germans will have died." Christa Schroeder writes about Hitler's diabolical nature. The death of a human being left him absolutely indifferent. He viewed humanity as a long chain of men, and he himself was the first link. The next day, April 20th, in the Berghof, his residence in the Bavarian Alps, Hitler celebrates his birthday with a small group. He is 54. His personal photographer, Hoffmann, presents a collection of photos ordered by the Führer. Monuments of the great German Reich, which will disappear in the Allied bombings, so they can be rebuilt identically after the war. Hoffmann has him admire paintings stolen from Jews for his Führer Museum in Linz. His close circle poses for the traditional family photo. In the front row, to the Führer's right, is Eva Braun. He receives birthday wishes from the staff and their children. One of the secretaries, Trautel Junge, writes, "He only talks about his dog, as if it were the dog's birthday. He says, 'She is really the cleverest dog I know, and I often play ball with her.'" Hitler talks about his dog to avoid talking about the war. The war continues, like here in Russia, where the goal is now holding on over advancing and surviving over winning. The war continues over a 1,900-mile front from Lapland to Crimea. Kharkov is taken and retaken 4 times. Hitler, filmed by Eva Braun, still seems cheerful and confident. This is not just the comedy of power. If he doesn't talk about the war, it's because he now believes he has the means to win, with what he calls his secret weapons. Thanks to this man, Werner von Braun, a young genius at the service of evil who has designed an invincible weapon, the V2 rocket. He has it built on an island in northern Germany. When the V2 is perfected and produced in large quantities, it will be able to transport a ton of explosives over London. A small team of scientists are working on it, though some of the best ones were forced to flee because they were Jewish. While he waits for his secret weapons, Hitler still has a key advantage. In the Berghof's grandiose living room, Hitler welcomes Admiral Karl Donitz, the strategist of submarine warfare, whom he has just named Commander-in-Chief of the German Navy. Over the course of the war, German submariners, most of them die-hard Nazis, will sink around 2,000 Allied merchant ships, amounting to 14.5 million tons of wreckage. After prowling the ocean, Donitz's Grey Wolves, the famous U-boats, hide from Allied aircraft. They return to their impenetrable shelters on the French coast, in Lorient, Bordeaux, Brest, Saint-Nazaire, and La Pallice. They are the heroes of the day, dead the next. Over 27,000 of the 39,000 submariners are killed, 70% losses, including Admiral Donitz's sons. In 1943, Hitler sees his project to conquer Caucasic and Middle Eastern oil escape him. But he still occupies part of Russia and what he calls New Europe. Because Hitler's Reich is also subject to severe restrictions. Now the German women produce shells heavier than their weight for Goebbels' total war that's burning through ammunition. But German rationing seems to spare some, as evidenced by these amateur images from the spring of 1943, filmed in the touristic town of Dachau, near Munich. Dachau is also the first Nazi concentration camp, opened only 2 months after Hitler rose to power in 1933. 200,000 deportees passed through this gate that reads, "Work sets you free." Communists, homosexuals, Bavarian Jews, gypsies, Polish priests, many of whom are slaves of the BMW company. They will die of hunger, medical experiments, or under the blows of the SS guards that we see here playing volleyball next to the camp on Sundays. Hitler makes Mussolini come to Germany. His features are drawn, and his power is wavering. Hitler wants to inform him he plans to resume the offensive in Russia. He still needs Mussolini's support and his soldiers. The Italian dictator is reluctant. He would prefer an effort in the Mediterranean, where his interests are directly threatened. But Hitler shows him that his generals prefer to attack in Russia to stabilize this front and reassure his allies. This will be Operation Citadel. An offensive in the center of the front, in the sector of the city of Kursk, where the Russians had managed to advance. The Germans will attack from the north and south with their usual pincer maneuver. Will the world's fate in July 1943 be a battle around the city of Kursk? Hitler mobilizes the energy of Speer, his architect, whom he names Minister of Armaments. Speer gives a boost to the German war industry. He has succeeded by working millions of prisoners and deportees to death. He forces the steel industry of occupied Europe to work at full capacity, to produce weapons in mass quantity. Hitler and Speer have also found a genius engineer, Ferdinand Porsche. For Hitler, Porsche has designed the people's car, the Volkswagen. Hitler and Speer make him design a better tank than the Soviet T-34. Speer attends the trials of this Tiger tank. The gamble pays off. It's a 55-ton monster, armed with the famous 88mm cannons, capable of piercing all types of armor. More precise, more range. At the end of June 1943, everything is ready for Operation Citadel. Hitler has gathered 2,700 tanks, 10,000 guns, 1,400 planes, and 625,000 soldiers. A massive effort, considering the Wehrmacht's substantial human and material losses. Hitler says, "The victory at Kursk will be a signal to the entire world. The path to world domination is clear." But the Germans have once again underestimated their enemy. The Red Army lines up 8,000 tanks, along with 47,000 guns, almost 6,000 aircraft, and nearly 2 million soldiers. Stalin rallies them. He has his proclamation read. Do not leave a single meter of our land to the enemy. Be ready for the decisive fight against the Germano-fascist invaders. Thanks to its spies, Soviet High Command knows precisely that the enemy will strike in Kursk. Nikita Khrushchev, who will one day be leader of the Soviet Union, plays a role in this battle. He is a political commissar, Stalin's eye. He oversees everything. In his memoir, he recounts that he interrogated SS prisoners before having them shot and knows what is being prepared and what is at stake. He says, "The next 2 or 3 days will be terrible. Either we hold out, or the Germans take Kursk. They are staking everything on this one card. It is a matter of life or death. We must see to it that they break their necks." Khrushchev, in his American coveralls, climbs into his Jeep, supplied by the Americans, as are 2/3 of the vehicles, 1,000 airplanes, and 45 million tins of food that his army eats. July 4th, 1943. These Soviet infantrymen in the trenches are Ukrainians. Like every soldier around the world, they speak of their wives and girlfriends before battle. Their commander, Konstantin Rokossovsky, has just been warned that the German assaults will take place at night. Across the front lines, the Russians wait. They wrote on their tanks, "For the motherland, for Stalin." In a short trip to the mountains, Hitler is photographed at the Berghof, looking very relaxed. At his side, Goebbels informs him, the Russians are running out of human reserves. Goebbels comes to encourage Nazi General Walter Model, for whom defeat is not an option. His soldiers' honor is at stake. Model, under the orders of Field Marshal von Kluge, must attack from the north, starting from Orel, and Manstein will attack from the south to encircle the Russians around Kursk. Marshal von Manstein has his doubts. He believes Hitler has waited too long to launch his offensives and has allowed the Russians to reinforce their troops. He asks for 2 additional divisions. But on this 4th of July, 1943, the die is cast. The greatest tank battle of all time is about to begin. Hitler proclaims, "This day you are to take part in an offensive of such importance that the whole future of the war may depend on its outcome. More than anything else, your victory will show the whole world that resistance to the power of the German army is hopeless." The German attack order is confirmed. In the north and the south, on July 5th at 4 a.m., the Wehrmacht will launch its offensives. But General Rokossovsky's troops make the first move. At 2:20 a.m., they unleash their artillery and Katyusha rockets. And yet the Russian fire is largely ineffective. And the Germans attack, backed by their tanks, their assault weapons, with their Tigers leading the way. The powerful Russian tanks, the T-34s, are quick to retaliate. The battle is reminiscent of World War I, says Nazi writer Paul Carroll. Despite the tanks, it's a stalemate. Paul Carroll writes, "All the officers are dead or wounded, in vain. The men rush to conquer a trench. Another trench immediately blocks their way. Battalions are melting like wax." On July 10th, north of Kursk, after 5 days of progress, the Germans are stopped by the violence of the Russian defense. 2 days later, General Model orders a retreat to the starting positions. While retreating, Lieutenant Karl Fragang of the 7th Infantry Division angrily destroys everything that could be used by the enemy. He writes, "We must go back. All these victims died for nothing. All this commitment was in vain. I have wept tears of anger and sadness." While Model retreats in the north, the SS manages to break through the second line of Russian defenses in the south, but with heavy losses. They take many prisoners, who are sent behind the lines to the summer wheat fields. The Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, attacks the last line of Russian defense. The famous Stuka's dive bombers pound Soviet positions. The Battle of Kursk is also a great air battle. The Soviets now have better planes, but they are lacking in good pilots and effective tactics. They suffer huge losses. On Yakovlev fighters, the Yak-3, the French volunteers of the Normandy Squadron joined the fight alongside the Russians. Now called the Normandy Niemen Regiment, at the end of the war, they will tally 273 victories and 42 dead, including their commander, Major Jean Toulaine, killed in the sky over Kursk. The land battle reaches its climax. But in the violent fighting, neither side gains the upper hand, and the worst is yet to come. On July 12, 1943, 8 days after the start of Operation Citadel, 1,800 tanks go head-on in hellacious chaos. This is the Soviet tank commander Evgeny Skirdilov's first battle. "I hit the German tank at 100 meters. This Tiger has already demolished many of our tanks. It is firing in our direction. I aim, I shoot, the Tiger catches fire. I've never felt such excitement before." German tank driver Wilhelm Reis says, "T-34 straight ahead. The shells are frantically passed to me. I load them into the gun, and the captain keeps shouting, 'Shoot! Shoot!' The Russians keep getting closer. After the fourth shot, the T-34 stops. It has 5-centimeter holes in its flank. Russian commander Pavel Rotmistrov recalls a hellish vision. The battlefield is overrun by swirls of smoke and dust. The earth is shaken with explosions. Tanks collide with each other and get stuck. They can't back up. They fight to the death, shooting until they are blown to bits. And in flames. Tanks fire at each other at close range. Some of them end up colliding or rolling on top of one another. A sea of wreckage, scrap metal, and human debris. 800,000 Soviets and 200,000 Germans have been killed, captured, or wounded during the Battle of Kursk. The famous SS general Sepp Dietrich, so close to Hitler, tells his officers, "Tonight we shall dine in Kursk." And yet, to everyone's surprise, Hitler, smiling, summons his generals. He orders them to stop fighting and return to their starting positions, not to take Kursk. Stalin takes the opportunity to show the world the Kursk victory, which it isn't, and to recover lost ground and take the city of Orel. Stalin institutes the salvo of cannons to celebrate each victory. He will fire 355 of them by the end of the war. Hitler wavers. He's facing another Russian offensive into the Orel area north of Kursk, as well as the Allied invasion of Sicily, which threatens Italy and southern Germany. For Hitler, the danger is so serious that he takes the risk of flying to northern Italy to meet his longtime ally, Mussolini. A unique photo shows Il Duce looking anxious, begging the Führer to find a way out of the war. Hitler tries to reassure him with an insane monologue about his secret weapons and new submarines. Roughly 100 large ocean-ready submarines are under construction. Much more powerful, they will be able to stay underwater much longer. They will be armed with acoustic torpedoes. British Admiral Cunningham warns, "With these, they will shoot at our freighters like ducks on a pond." Most submarines are built in the port of Hamburg, Germany's second-largest city. This is where Churchill and the Allied Air Force commanders want to strike, at the very heart of Nazi submarine production. The British and the Americans are planning a combined bomber offensive against Germany, Operation Gomorrah. Each plane will carry a carefully measured mixture of explosive and incendiary bombs. The logic of war leads to this terrible undertaking, patiently calculated and perfected to produce maximum devastation. British Bomber Command ordered the city of Hamburg to be leveled in a ruthless area bombing campaign, designed to bring Germany to its knees. On July 25, 1943, the British and the Americans launched more than 700 large four-engine bombers over Germany. Their target is Hamburg. This armada spreads across 6 miles of sky. The bombers take turns for 8 days. These young crews sacrifice themselves to accomplish this deadly mission against the German population. A hurricane of fire kills more than 30,000 people and renders more than 500,000 homeless. The man who organized this terrifying raid is Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Air Force's Bomber Command, Arthur Harris. He writes, "The Nazis entered this war under the rather childish delusion that they were going to bomb everyone else, and nobody was going to bomb them. In Rotterdam, London, Warsaw, and half 100 other places, they sowed the wind, and now they are going to reap the whirlwind." Over the course of the operation, Allied bombers dump 8,000 tons of bombs. The German people have now been plunged into the misery of war. But Goebbels' first objective is to show that Hitler is firmly in control. He has Hitler filmed in his headquarters at the Wolf's Lair. The Führer seems serene, but the military situation in Russia is deteriorating a bit more each day. Marshal von Manstein, who commands the Southern Front in Ukraine, flies to Rostenburg to meet with Hitler. The meeting is heated. Manstein says, "I want to emphasize the gravity of our situation. Whether we like it or not, we should be compelled to retreat behind the Dnieper." The big Dnieper River is the objective of the Russian offensive, from Kursk towards Smolensk and Kiev. Hitler authorizes the retreat, and as the battalions do so, they scorch the earth, as Stalin had done before them. The great Russian writer Vasily Grossman testifies to the Nazis' savagery. "I visited the beautiful, fertile Dnieper Valley, transformed by the fascists into a hell of suffering and torture. Fascism shoots and kills people, not individually, but by entire villages and cities. Flamethrowers and machine guns with incendiary bullets burn dozens of flourishing villages, execute streets, neighborhoods, whole towns." This is what the soldiers of the Red Army discover in their reconquest. Revenge is immediate. The Stalinists also want to regain control of the people after 2 years of German occupation. They organize large demonstrations and try those who have sympathized with the enemy. All the trials end in execution or deportation to the gulags. Hitler's mood is progressively dark. His secretary, Christa Schroeder, says, "He played with his dog, a gift from Bormann. He ate his meals alone, and he forbade us to talk about the war." Yet Hitler bounces back. He gives SS officer Otto Skorzeny a mission. He must save Mussolini, arrested by the new Italian authorities who have asked the Anglo-American allies for an armistice. Mussolini is imprisoned, but where? Skorzeny must find him. Meanwhile, German troops occupy Rome. The Italian army is disarmed and deported. Skorzeny ultimately finds Mussolini, locked up north of Rome, in this mountain hotel that looks like a fortress. On September 12, 1943, the German paratroopers and the SS land on the mountain in gliders. There is no reaction from the Italians. They free Mussolini, who says to Skorzeny, "It was time. I was going to commit suicide." In the various planes taking him to Germany, Mussolini explains that the Italian armistice included him being turned over to the Allies. But when he is brought to Hitler, he understands that his fate will be no better. Hitler wants this exhausted, defeated man to still be of use to him. He pushes him to create a counter-government in northern Italy, now occupied by the Germans. Hitler and the Nazis, smiling for the camera, send Mussolini back to Italy, to an uncertain fate. Hitler's is hardly more reassuring. His worst enemies are gathered for the first time in front of the world's press. All eyes are on them. First, Russia's leader, Stalin, Marshal of the Red Army. In pride of place, the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt. And Churchill, in his distinguished Royal Air Force uniform, who embodies the resistance to Nazism. The day's agenda is devoted to the date of the Allied landing in France. It will take place in the spring of 1944. The Second Front, long awaited by the Russians, can finally open. For the first time since the beginning of the war, Hitler spends Christmas alone in his bunker, on his cot. He wants to show his solidarity with the soldiers on the front. And what of Ever Braun? One of the bodyguards, Rochus Misch, recalls, "As soon as Hitler left, Ever Braun threw a party. In no time at all, her expression had changed. She'd become funny and playful. She seemed to open up, to say that we should take advantage of this departure, of this moment of freedom, that we should all get to it." The Germans begin the new year by digging shelters. They still believe in victory. Hitler says, "Germany will rise from its ashes more beautiful than ever." American psychoanalyst Walter Langer is contracted to write a psychological study of the Fuhrer for the U.S. government. He writes, "Hitler will avoid public appearances. There will be a plot against him. He will not accept peace negotiations, and he will refuse to surrender. He will take revenge on the world for hating him, and he will ultimately commit suicide."